So they're always considering, what it feels like to be a patient and take a big breath on one of those machines. They take that same centralized laboratory approach that cardiac safety takes, except they manufacture their own machines. So they actually have a manufacturing plant on site, which is different. Their pricing approach, so cardiac safety pricing is very transactional. How many reads do you want times the number of, the price for the reads, and that's your price. The respiratory services arms takes a manufacturing approach. So this is what's going to cost for us to create all this hardware, and then they add services component onto that. This is what it's going to cost for us to read all of your results.
Yes, it's a complete different sales, right? Because you're gonna if you go with an asthma trial for GSK, you will I don't know if there are relationships in there, but you would probably design the spirometer that works well for their patient population, whether it's going to be kids or adults, whether it's long or short term. Is that the kind of approach you're taking of co-developing?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yes, 100%. You got it right. And I think the other thing that's worth noting is that respiratory and ECOA are probably sold at the same time in the buyer cycle. Your trial managers are looking for respiratory and ECOA a little bit further in advance. And so ERT did take a smart approach when they tried to integrate their master scope, which is their centralized spirometry platform. They integrated that with ECOA, and that made really good sense. But cardiac safety, because it's so transactional, generally is requested much closer to the start of first patient in. So that is another challenge, I think, in trying to sell, respiratory plus cardiac safety. Trial managers usually aren't ready to buy cardiac safety yet when they're buying respiratory.
I have tons of questions now because I start to see how it works. So the CareFusion business is still in Germany, right? It's still not in Pennsylvania with the rest of the ERT business.
Correct. They're in Würzburg.
And do you think they are well integrated and they are able to serve everybody in the US and, or is that still very much the CareFusion business, the family-run business, the German Mittelstand they bought?
Yeah, they ship everything out of Germany. It almost continually operates independently. The whole company uses Salesforce.com for opportunity management. So the salespeople who are selling respiratory are entering that into Salesforce. But when I left, they still were using their own ERP system. So they function a little bit separately. And the way that they run accounting inside is if somebody sold respiratory in the U.S., the ERT Inc. in Philadelphia would actually buy the respiratory hardware and services from ERT GmbH.
So it means that the sales team are integrated, and then you mentioned the fact that respiratory and ECOA are probably sold to the same guy at the same time, probably early phase 2 or even before that.
Yep.
And so it's all the back office function and the manufacturing functions which are not integrated.
Right. So if somebody buys ECOA and respiratory at the same time, they're depending on the scale that's being used for ECOA. If it doesn't need a lot of real estate on the screen, they have one device that can do both ECOA and respiratory, and that's all manufactured in Germany. If they have, and this is for the ePro component only, right? They're not really doing site. For the site-based stuff, then they're getting a separate tablet it's not even being manufactured in Pennsylvania. It's just being provisioned, right? They're buying external tablets and provisioning them.
So if ePro is basic, you can have your ePro app on your spirometer. Basically, you just have your one screen. Then if you have a full asthma trial where all the endpoints are around that and quality endpoints, then you would have probably a standard tablet that you have for an ECOA trials together with your spirometer. But I think when we look into the ECOA market, the market share of ERT within all the respiratory trials where it's probably